Formula 1 comes to the Canadian Grand Prix for round 6 of the 2022 season, and with some huge news for two of the biggest drivers and teams on the grid. The 5-time world champion Sebastian Vettel and the 2019 world champion Max Verstappen have switched teams in a swap deal worth $65 million. Last weekend saw Verstappen retire from the Belgian Grand Prix with a mechanical failure, and it was the final nail in the coffin for his camp to push through a move that sees him return to Mercedes. The Dutchman grew fed up of Audi's rumored bias to Carlos Sainz's driving style and seemed overjoyed to be going back to the team he won his world championship with. Toto Wolff was equally happy to see him return, saying, quote, "The team have fond memories of working with Max, and we hope we can push forward now for the rest of the season." All while Sebastian Vettel has gone the other way and joined the rival German team. Vettel grew unhappy with Mercedes' lack of rapid progress that he was promised, and when his management heard Verstappen could be interested in returning to the Silver Arrows, they jumped at the chance of placing Vettel in the Audi. So naturally, going into the race weekend, all eyes were on both drivers to see how they would fare. Friday practice certainly had some surprises, with Vettel looking immediately at home and comfortable with his new car, and many paddock insiders suggesting Sainz will have his hands full trying to match him. On the other side, Verstappen equally took to his new Mercedes, but it was still clear that although it was a positive move for Verstappen's morale, his new team still have a lot of work to do to return to the front of the grid. Away from the two German outfits, Red Bull look extremely strong around Montreal, along with the Ferrari of aarava. It's been his favorite circuit in Formula 1 for many years now, and the Scuderia will be counting on that to boost their race results as they wait for major upgrades scheduled for round 7. Finally, Alfa Romeo look to solidify their position in the standings with updates this weekend, while Haas look incredibly uncomfortable with major balance issues for both their drivers. And so, following a Belgian Grand Prix that has shaken up the standings for both drivers and teams, everyone will be looking to Montreal to get a further jump on their rivals. It's time to take a look at the starting grid for the 2022 Canadian Grand Prix, and it's yet another pole position for Pierre Gasly, and for once he'll start alongside his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi as the Red Bulls lock out the front row, but only by a narrow margin, with Vettel in his new Audi already on the pace of the frontrunners and less than a tenth and a half off the pole time. He starts alongside aarava in the Ferrari, who was ecstatic about his and the team's performance on Saturday. Row 3 sees two drivers that have featured on the front row plenty in 2022, with Pérez going 5th quickest in the BMW. Ocon in the Renault will line up 6th, less than half a tenth between the two of them. Carlos Sainz in the other Audi will start from 7th alongside the other BMW of Bottas, less than a tenth between the two of them. The lead Mercedes of Verstappen featured in Q3 and did manage to go a couple of hundredths quicker than Leclerc. All of the drivers in the top 10 within half a second of the time set by Gasly. In the second half of the grid and way off his teammate is the other Renault of Jack Aitken, who seemed to be struggling with the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve. He'll start 5 positions behind Ocon and alongside Van Dorn, who once again will feature his Jag on the 6th row. Mick Schumacher seems to have found a bit more one-lap pace and will start from 13th, but the real talking point was Ilott in 14th. Not only did the Alfa driver make it into Q2, but he also managed to go quicker than the lead McLaren of Ricciardo, who was rather vocal about his team's chances or lack thereof at this Canadian circuit. He's joined on row 8 by his teammate Norris, just 1,000th between the two of them. Another vocal driver this weekend was Hülkenberg, who got knocked out in Q1. He was almost 3 tenths quicker than Fuoco, but will still start alongside him. And bringing up the rear this week, it's Kari in 19th position and Verline in stone dead last, both drivers more than 1.2 seconds off the pole time.
Hey, what's going on, it's Aarava here. Welcome back to my F1 MyDriver career mode, episode number 6 today for Season 8 at the Canadian Grand Prix. If you did miss the last episode, episode number 5 at the Belgian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see the rest of this one. Annotation in the top right there. Really, really great race and a lot of chaos, and as was mentioned in the practice portion there, it really did flip a lot of things in the championship standings, which you can see in the bottom right now. And as well as that, obviously, as you would have seen and heard in the practice portion of the video ahead, we also had another flip of Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen swapping race seats. So it's all kicking off here right now in MyDriver episode number 6, and the episode hasn't really even gone underway for the race as we do the formation lap. It's going to be a tough old race, but Canada, as was mentioned, is really one of my favorite F1 tracks of all time on the F1 game to race. I have a lot of fun with it. I feel like it has a really good flow, and off the back of last season here at the Canadian Grand Prix, we might be in store for a really hectic one. You know, the high tyre wear nature of the last 2 seasons made Canada a very, very tricky one to navigate, and the track anyway really invites a lot of overtaking, of course, with 2 long back straights here. So let's just line up and see what we can do from P4 here today alongside Sebastian Vettel in that brand new Audi of his. We're a little bit on the back foot, myself and Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, but we've got updates coming for next race, so let's just try and make the best we can of this one today and see how we do. So we go to 5 red lights then for the Canadian Grand Prix, round number 6 of the 2022 season. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a good start for us compared to Sebastian Vettel, and Giovinazzi, the Italian, gets a great start compared to his teammate Pierre Gasly off pole position, and Giovinazzi down the inside. We're down the inside of Sebastian Vettel into turn 2. We're up into P3, and the 2 Red Bulls will now go side by side and battle for the lead. Gasly, though, on the inside for the next left-hander. He'll push out Giovinazzi, and now can we try and attack the Italian here? Down the inside, maybe of the next corner. We'll go for it. Big dive bomb. Lock up on the front tire. Bit of contact was made, but Gio's still there on my right, round the outside. And I think we've just about got that. Yep, looking back in the mirrors, but also looking in the mirrors, you can see there, Vettel shooting up like a rocket there. The Audi guys will be really flexing their muscles today, just like they did at Belgium, really down the back straights. The long straights are really going to help them out. Of course, not too many corners where they're going to lose time, aerodynamically speaking there, and Vettel is cleaning away up into P2, so we're down to P3 again, and let's just try and keep that position though. We get a little bit wild on the exit, and you can see Gio is hustling and harrying us on the back of our car, and also you've got Carlos Sainz in the other Audi fancying some overtakes here today. So now we're going to remain in P3 into the last corners, but Carlos Sainz has made a move on Giovinazzi, and there's a hop and a skip for Giovinazzi, and he's actually maybe going to lose another position to the BMW car of Sergio Pérez. So it's all kicking off behind. Look at that. It's going to be 3 wide between the both BMW cars and Giovinazzi, and it's going to be Bottas, I think that is, down the inside. Pérez in the middle of it, and Pérez just manages to thread his car through like a needle there, and Bottas has to settle down and watch this fight as Giovinazzi actually gets it back. What a great fight there between the 2 BMW cars and the Red Bull. Gio, great work for him to remain in P4, because I really thought that was a slam dunk move then for Sergio Pérez. As now we cut later on, a lap later or 2, and now we've got Sebastian Vettel attacking Pierre Gasly for the lead of the Grand Prix. Gasly does well though to place his car. At the moment the Frenchman is ahead of the German into the chicane, but Vettel's going to have a really good run now as we move on to lap 4 on the pit straight. Gasly squeezes Vettel into the wall. He's on the grass as well and scraping across the wall, and Vettel just about manages to survive that. Goes slow to turn 1, and we've been very opportunistic. We've sent on his outside, turned to the inside for turn 2 though, and we've got that, and we're up into P2 now. So it was going to be a pass for the lead. Turns out he's lost the position, Sebastian Vettel has, and that was very questionable tactics there from the Frenchman Pierre Gasly. I know he's desperate to keep the win. Obviously myself and Gasly did really poor last episode at the Belgium Grand Prix, but that was really quite nasty tactics, pushing Vettel into the wall. I don't know if he didn't see him. Of course, that if you remember back to 2011, that's what happened to Hamilton and Button in the McLarens back in the day. Unsighted perhaps into the wall, squeezing Vettel, but we've just been shown a replay there of Giovinazzi locking up quite badly into the hairpin and allowing both BMW cars to pass him there. So I don't know if that's going to be a long-term issue for Giovinazzi with brake temp issues, or have to check in later and see about that. But back to our POV now, on towards that 5, slinging through that chicane, and both me and Vettel now are closing down Gasly. Could we have a pop to the inside? Maybe we have a look, dart back to the racing line, and we've been unsettled though. Had to brake a little bit earlier as I wasn't sure where Gasly's car was going to be placed, and that's allowed Vettel to slip it down the inside, and he's basically done the deja vu textbook move that I pulled on him just a lap earlier. So Vettel's just basically got me back in the exact same way and got a bit of revenge there. Now I look into the end of sector 1, right up his gearbox, literally touching the back of his car there, but not quite enough to send it down his inside. But so far from that replay, the 2 BMW cars are doing much better than they did at the Belgium Grand Prix, so that's good to see. And meanwhile, a little bit further back down the road, you can see this is Callum Ilott there holding up the 2 McLarens in a big train, also including the Haas guys. So the young Ferrari Junior Academy driver doing really well in that upgrade Alfa Romeo. But now back to the lead now again. Vettel trying to take the race lead off Gasly, and once again the pressure is not getting to Gasly, but into the last corner. Double lock up there from both drivers as well as me, and there's been a big kerfuffle there. They're both gone slowly. We're on the left now. It's 3 wide, and Gasly's going to squeeze us, and again Gasly squeezes someone else into the wall. This time it's me, and look at that. The 2 Audi cars have just been in a bit of a love train there, and they've gone round the outside of both of us. And so now it's Vettel from Carlos Sainz to Pierre Gasly in the lead of this Grand Prix. It's a double 1-2 for Audi at the moment, And let's look at a replay then. Big lock-up from the Frenchman. The German is slowing down, of course, not to smash into the back of Gasly, and there we come out of nowhere. Gasly then squeezes us and is too focused on us. He lets Vettel right by, and then I want to see this POV from Carlos Sainz. He was quite some way back, but look at the amount the Spaniard's going to gain here. You can see on the left clearly Gasly starts to squeeze me out. He slows both of us down, and then like I said, like a little love train almost, Carlos Sainz just follows Vettel through into turn 1, almost like the England strikers in the World Cup. A nice love train and makes it work. And so nice tandem relationship, and it looks like the new pairing of Audi, Vettel and Sainz, clearly already they've got some good synergy there. So I'm sure the German bosses back at Germany watching the race from the Audi HQ are going to be very happy with that sight as they now lead 1-2, and now Gasly has locked up badly. Does that now suggest it's actually a Red Bull issue, not just Giovinazzi earlier with a lockup? Now Pierre Gasly's lost 2 positions to the BMW cars, and now they run P4 with Perez and P5 Valtteri Bottas. Is that a terminal issue maybe for the Red Bull cars this afternoon? Canada's very tough on the brakes, so maybe they have a brake-wire issue. Maybe their brakes have really cooked completely. But we've got more things to worry about as my tyres are starting to go off here compared to the other guys. Looks like everyone around me is a bit more comfortable on these tyres than I am. And Perez now tries it on the outside. He's had a great exit off that last corner, and that's allowed him to shoot it on the outside of that fast chicane. And now he's on the left, and also Valtteri Bottas might try pop. It's going to be 3 wide with the 2 BMWs again. This time with me, not Giovinazzi, and both BMWs are around my outside. Bottas now leads the pair into P3, that will be, and Perez up to P4, all the way down to P5, as the 2 Red Bulls now fight behind me. Gasly and Giovinazzi go side by side. We re-overtake Sergio Pérez, and we're flying down the inside of Bottas because we come straight to the pit lane then for an early pit stop. Clearly my car is really not liking these tyres at the moment. I don't know what it is. It definitely looks like I'm struggling way more on the tyre wear on these Ultrasoft than the other guys around me, because they are now going side by side still. Giovinazzi, that is, now has overtaken Sergio Pérez. Really nice move there from the Italian. So I don't know, maybe it's a temporary issue for the Red Bull cars on braking there, because his brakes seem to work pretty damn well there. But now, meanwhile, back to us. We've made the pit stop, and the Ferrari crew have put me onto soft tyres, which I sound disheartened by, because I didn't really want them, because if we base this off last season, season 7 of MyDriver, the soft tyres were horrendous, and we've got the same exact tyres this year. So I don't know why the Ferrari crew put me on softs. I wanted to go onto super soft tyres, but I did look at my indicator on the heads-up display on the bottom right to see if that was going to be the case, and so the team just default put me on a soft tyre, and I think they want me to go to the end of the Grand Prix, but I just don't know if that is possible. Meanwhile, whilst we've got to deal with that now and push on our outlap, Pierre Gasly here, you can see, is trying to hold up a train of these cars as best he can. He's actually going side by side with Max Verstappen now. Big lock up into the hairpin, and he's trying to hold position. Clearly he's got issues now, even more so than Giovinazzi. So from the lead of the Grand Prix now down to being swarmed by the bottom of the top 10. That's really unfortunate for the Frenchman there, but at least you got to admire his fighting spirit, trying to never back down. Of course, in MyDriver, every single point counts. You know, countless championships have been decided by 1 or 2 or 3 points only. So Gasly trying his best to remain in the top 10, whilst I'm sure the Red Bull mechanics are trying to figure out something. The engineers on the pit will be trying to find a solution here and trying to tell him what to do in the cockpit to maybe offset some brake bias, a la kind of Daniel Ricciardo we've seen in the past in real life Formula 1. So Gasly trying to do the best, but in the end it's going to be no use for now, as he locks up quite badly in the Sector 1 and lets by a whole gaggle of cars. And so we'll have to catch back up with Pierre Gasly and see where he is and what kind of shape he is later on this Grand Prix. We're now on lap 11. The first third of this Grand Prix is flown by. We're now gone purple, and we are diving down the inside of our former teammate Pascal Wehrlein on the outside of turn 2. Now we'll try and get the move booked, but he's actually got some good traction there on the Ultrasoft, so that's what I'm talking about. I don't know how all these guys are faring so well on Ultrasoft tyres still on lap 11. Cast your minds back. Literally, if you go back to the episode last season at the Canadian Grand Prix, everyone was coming in for a pit stop around lap 6-7 for the Ultrasoft tyres. So I don't know what it is. Maybe the higher downforce is allowing the entire grid to nurse their tyres a little bit better, but I definitely haven't. Maybe it's a Ferrari specific issue. Obviously we're waiting for upgrades for the Monaco Grand Prix next episode, but I don't know if that's another issue we need to try and solve, is higher tyre wear compared to the other teams. It definitely is maybe possible, but I dread to kind of think that. But at the moment, you've got to say it's a good argument for it, because we are now finally flying through these cars. We're up into P14 now after we made those very quick passes on the Jaguar car of Nico Hülkenberg there. And we also overtook Gasly once again because he had issues into the hairpin, if you didn't see that. And now we're down the inside of Antonio Fuoco in the Alfa Romeo, but having some issues on traction and trying to get the car out the hairpin on the exit there. But finally now the ultra soft tyres appear to be going off a little bit for the cars around us, and now we're gaining speed against them on the slower soft tyres. With a very nice move down the inside of Antonio Fuoco then in the last chicane, DRS open, and we're going to go on to lap 13 in P13. So we're making good progress actually in the pace. Now hopefully in some clean air can pick up, and we close up quite rapidly to the McLaren group of Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. We're around the outside of the Australian then into the hairpin. Can we find the space on the outside? Will Ricciardo squeeze us? No, he won't, and he'll give us the room, but there we got the traction on the exit. But now as we go onto the DRS detection point, Ricciardo comes back at us a little bit. The Jaguar engine working a bit overtime and maybe put it into Rich Mix, and he's squeezing us as close as he can do and get away with to the wall, and he's still there defending the position. So Ricciardo, just like back at the Hungarian Grand Prix, really puts the elbows out, and as you would expect from the Aussie lads, and he's done well, but not well enough. And finally we get the move done, and his teammate Norris already came in for the pit stop, so he gained one more free position there. Meanwhile, back behind us, further down on track, we've got the Red Bull cars who have made their pit stops finally in this Grand Prix. Giovinazzi, I think this is, trying to go around the outside then of two cars. Doesn't work out though. He gets held up, and also with him is Valtteri Bottas, that is, his BMW car, and Gasly now is trailing a bit behind in turn 2, but you can see both Red Bull cars clearly with issues, but they're still soldiering on. And then later, this is Sergio Pérez joining their group, but you can see, noting, Bottas and both Red Bull cars are on ultra soft tyres or super soft, but Perez is on soft tyres. So Perez might be trying a one-stop here. The other guys might be trying a two-stop, along with what might be me, because he might say, I should be able to take this to the end. But the thing is, my tyres are already pretty much on about 15%, and we've got a long way to go in this Grand Prix. And so I think a two-stop will still be on, and that's why I wanted my team to put me on super softs, because last year it was a three-stop that won me the Canadian Grand Prix. It's the same exact tyres this year, so I'm a little bit confused, and it's definitely a learning experience right now. You know, obviously with these new cars, every single track, it's a stab into the dark of how the downforce is going to make the cars react around the circuit, how the engine's going to perform, the new V10s. But we're up into P3 for now, lap 17. Whether we are able to get P3 back once we make another pit stop is going to be another question today. But here goes Sebastian Vettel, still doing a fantastic job on super soft tyres in the lead of this Grand Prix, followed by Carlos Sainz a little bit further down the road. Then there's us in P3, and you can see the tyre difference. I'm the only one there on softs, both Audis on super softs, and you can see I'm going much wider. The soft tyres, like last season, are performing so badly around Montreal, so I'm quite annoyed really with my team. Following me though is the two BMW cars, and then you've got Stoffel Vandoorne doing a great job ahead of, I think that's Giovinazzi in the second Red Bull car, the lead Red Bull car you would say, Pierre Gasly. He's definitely struggling, and that's not going to be great for him because obviously, as I mentioned, he had a torrid time along with me at the Belgium Grand Prix, so he needed a comeback drive, and it's so far not going to be anything like that. And you can see behind Giovinazzi is then the Renault of Esteban Ocon, then you've got Max Verstappen, my teammate Charles Leclerc, and then you've got the other Mercedes car of Mick Schumacher, Aiken, and then you've got the likes of the Alfa Romeo of Callum Ilott, and then a lot further down the order into the hairpin only now is Pierre Gasly, but he's still pushing hard and trying to make the best of it, and we'll see what the Frenchman can do later on this Grand Prix, maybe if those issues are fixed for him. But we are now into the pit lane on lap 21, so what's that, about 4 laps later from when we first saw our POV then when I got into P3. So I had 4 laps of running around in P3, but I could see on the top right my lap times were going down, we're going up and up and up I should say, increasing, and so we're effectively slowing down of course. And so I thought I'd make the call now. We're going to come in onto a set of super soft tyres. And actually, I made the exact same call as Valtteri Bottas and Giovinazzi behind me. They're actually in at the same time as me. They were down there on the pit lane. You might have been able to see if you're eagle-eyed enough. And so Bottas, Giovinazzi are also in on for what I'd imagine is a set of super soft tyres as well. And so we're all going to go to the end of the Grand Prix. We're out in P11, and so we're going to overtake Nico Hülkenberg to get back into the points-paying positions. Down the inside we go of the Haas, struggling for a lot of balance, and especially so at this Grand Prix, especially the Haas not looking too great. And we're off into P10, and we're back into the points. And now it's a case of we push absolutely flat out to try and get back into P3 if we can. And we're immediately on the back of Jack Aiken in the Renault as we move on to lap 24, trying to get up into P9. Aiken's got DRS off the Jaguar ahead, but we've got the move done. Down the inside we go and cut him off on the racing line, and now we're literally almost touching the gearbox then of the Jaguar car of Vandoorne up ahead, who's doing a great job to try and get the tail end of the points. Jaguar really need Vandoorne to finish here, but I need to spoil the party for him for a bit, and overtake him first. Don't worry, he'll get that position back, because obviously I'll overtake Schumacher. Hopefully that's the hope. But we've got yellow flags ahead, and it's Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, my teammate, he's out of the Canadian Grand Prix. So Ferrari, we already had issues going to this Grand Prix that clearly we've not developed enough compared to the other teams. We're waiting for an upgrade, like I said, for next episode at the Monaco Grand Prix. But now that Leclerc is out, I'm literally the only one flying the flag in red here for the Tifosi, and I need to do an even better job now. Hopefully that'll spur me on. We're up down the inside, and we made that pass very easily on Van Dorn, and actually Van Dorn now is going to get attacked by Jack Aitken, and so the Renault might fancy the pass on the Belgian man. Down the inside, Aitken goes. Van Dorn, will he try and hang it on the outside? No, he won't, but a little bit sparking. And over the bump, Aitken goes. Meanwhile, we overtake Mick Schumacher, the youngster, in the monster Mercedes car down the inside for P6. And meanwhile, Van Dorn's coming back at Aitken because Aitken locks up. And Van Dorn down the inside, soft tyre v super soft. So I'm surprised that Aitken's struggling that much, but maybe he's got poor tyre wear. I don't know what his strategy was, but Van Dorn re-overtakes Aitken, maybe? No, Aitken does a great job at defending that position and keeps the pass he made. Great racing here at Montreal, all down the field. And now, lap 27, we go purple. That's what we love to see. And now I'm pushing flat out. It's Max Verstappen up next, and then it's Esteban Ocon, and then third place man is Sergio Pérez. But first, we need to get past the Dutchman back in his old team of Mercedes, the team he won the 2019 World Championship with. We're down the inside, but he's done well to keep on the outside. To be fair, locked up, so I didn't have the best entry into the hairpin, and Verstappen's actually got that head. The Mercedes upgrade's working a little bit better down the straight here, but we've got the DRS open. He does not, and we're on the outside. Verstappen, though, will have the inside line. He dives it and brakes late, as he would kind of assume Verstappen would, and he does really well to hold me up, and he's holding me up a bit too much here, because we're still now going neck and neck into turn one, the next lap, lap 28, and we've lost almost 2 seconds, I think this will be, as we're fighting Verstappen here compared to my previous pace in free air. And so still Verstappen fights me on the exit of turn 2, and you can see he's really been motivated by his move to Mercedes, clearly, because he wasn't really putting up much of a fight like this when he was in the Audi for the first 5 rounds of this season. And so we have to wait until the hairpin once again, and so second time lucky now. Can we make the pass? He locks up. That's going to allow us to take the racing line, open up the steering wheel, go wide on purpose, and cut him off completely. And we're now up into P5 indefinitely, I think, opening DRS as well. He tries to make a little look on my inside there in the mirrors, but then he backs off, and we're going to keep P5. And now we can move on to try and chasing after the Frenchman Esteban Ocon in the Renault. Speaking about another Frenchman, though, Pierre Gasly, this is fighting Callum Ilott there in the Alfa Romeo, and Gasly makes that overtake. Giovinazzi also trying to make passes, so maybe the Red Bull cars have fixed their issues, because both Red Bulls now are trying to make their way through the midfield traffic, essentially, as Ilott now blocks up badly. So for all the good the youngster did earlier, now he's really struggling. And Giovinazzi's now right around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo. A really good pass for him on the McLaren, and next up he's got to overtake Valtteri Bottas, but the two Red Bulls sandwich Bottas, and all three of them are trying to make their way up the order. So good to see. Like I said, Gasly's still fighting hard for the last points paying positions, maybe. But back to us, and we're making a dive bomb down the inside of Esteban Ocon in the last chicane on lap 32. Ocon squeezes us towards the Wall of Champions. We grazed the Wall of Champions, but nothing came off the car, and we're up into P4. Very aggressive move on Ocon, but we had to make it work, because we've only got now 3 laps left of this Grand Prix. Is the Alfa Romeo there? I can't tell which one, but it's stricken at the exit of turn 1. But we've only got a finite amount of laps now to try and chase after the BMW of Perez to try and get that P3 once again. And now you can see Bottas, his teammate, Perez's teammate, is locked up there into turn 1, and he's let through Pierre Gasly and Giovinazzi there. So both Red Bulls now lie astern, and they're going to try maybe a double attack on the last points paying positions. But we move on now to the last lap of the Grand Prix, and you can see Perez is just up the road, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't think it. I don't want to sound too negative, but I just don't think that's enough time to pull that gap back. But meanwhile, one man who's determined to make the gap is Gasly now, round the outside of Lando Norris to overtake the youngster to ruin his day and take his last points paying positions. That is Gasly up into P10 of the Canadian Grand Prix. He was last place at one point in this race with big issues, and he's now going to come away with at least 1 point in this Grand Prix, and 1 point could make the difference at the end of this season between him winning the championship and him not. But the main man today, the man everyone will celebrate, is this man, the German Sebastian Vettel, the 5-time world champion in the Audi for his first ever race for the German outfit, and he's won the Canadian Grand Prix in some great style. Great overtakes at the beginning of that Grand Prix, and he's pulled through a very dominant victory ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz. A 1-2 for Audi, Audi will be very, very happy with their swap deal for Vettel and Verstappen. And meanwhile, we're unable to overtake Sergio Pérez. They can see crossing the line for P4 in the Grand Prix. I'm still pretty happy with that. That's where we qualified, so can't complain too much. But I can complain about where our car is. Clearly, issues with tyre wear, and then Charles Leclerc retiring in the middle way of that Grand Prix, and we just didn't have the raw pace to even match the Audis today. So I'm really hoping those upgrades at Monaco can come in clutch. But the man celebrating and in high spirits, you could see just there before in that clip, was Sebastian Vettel as he got first place at the Canadian Grand Prix. And a 1-2 for Audi, that's going to mean a hell of a lot for the Constructors' Championships, and that might just spook not only me and Ferrari, but also Red Bull and also Renault, because I think Audi might just swing all the way to the top here. But now moving to the drivers' standings, Carlos Sainz is the one in the commanding lead of 15 points. That is a huge margin to have in my driver terms. And second place is us, 15 points back with 70 there. Esteban Ocon up into P3. Antonio Giovinazzi is now ahead of his team, or stays ahead of his team actually, in P4 there with 60 points, but he moves down from second. So obviously Ocon and myself doing a great job to be ahead of Gio, and Gasly is in P5 now and some way behind the top of the leaderboard there, and that's going to be really frustrating for him because he's had 2 wins so far this season, one of them being in the sprint race of course, but still 2 wins, and that Red Bull has been looking stronger and stronger as the race has gone on. So 2 races in a row where either the car has let him down or the strategy let him down. So Pierre's going to want to really bounce back at Monaco. Sebastian Vettel, look at that, he bounces all the way from outside the top 12, I think he was in the lower third of the standings, up into P6 of the championship now with that win for Audi there with 42 points. And now I think he'll be definitely looking towards, maybe looking now to make a title charge if he keeps up that kind of momentum. And my teammate Leclerc is all the way down in P7. He's had a horrid 3 last races here in this season so far. In the Constructors then, Audi are now into the lead of the Constructors Championship, 125 points to Red Bull's 118. So 1 race is all it took, 1-1-2, and Audi swing that all the way from P4 to P1. They're going to be so happy about that. Red Bull down to P2, Ferrari P3 now, and Renault P4. But look at that Mercedes now with that, they both scored points. Mick Schumacher and Max Verstappen scored pretty good middle points in the top 10, and that's good enough to bring them up into P5 now. So pretty much where Mercedes were hoping they started the season. And so from this foundation and the upped morale they have now, seemingly from Verstappen being there once again, they can push on to maybe try and catch the top 4 teams. But you can see how close it is. Mercedes only 1 point ahead of Haas and only 1 point ahead of then McLaren. So really close fight between those 3 teams. And then you got the kind of bottom 3 pack, as it were. Alfa Romeo only a couple of points ahead of BMW, and Jaguar, well, they're a lot further away from BMW, and you got to say they are going to be so annoyed with themselves because they have the pace to be around Haas, but they just haven't capitalized on it. And of course, teams like Haas have got lucky with a win this season, so they're going to have to try and rectify that. And BMW, even though Perez got a podium, it's still not enough to pick them up from the bottom 2 positions, so still work to do for the other German outfit in Formula 1. But guys, that has been a really, really awesome and fun Canadian Grand Prix. Although we didn't get P3 there and got it back, I had so much fun making my way through the field there on those extra super soft tyres at the end there. A lot of fun. Always do around Montreal. It's always a great Grand Prix to come to. And if you guys enjoy the racing action today, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.